We're gonna open up a can of worms right now and talk about Freud.
When I first learned about Freud, I was surrounded by students and a professor who theorized that the only reason Freud's theory was in the textbook was because of how shocking it was. This subject tends to make people feel really uncomfortable, so out of respect for my audience, I'm just gonna have you guys Google the Oedipus complex. It's not a family activity.
Badaboom.
As it turns out, there's a lot more to Freud's theory that I think is worth looking at. Okay, so Freud had this theory that when we have feelings that we're not allowed to have, like sexual or angry feelings. Wait, is this appropriate to be discussing online? It's more appropriate than that what's in my mouth challenge that people are doing.
Touché.
So, when we get these embarrassing thoughts or feelings, we'll try to trick ourselves into believing that we don't really have them, because it makes us feel bad about ourselves.
The fun part is realizing that whatever weird desires you might have, you don't have to feel bad about yourself. It's normal. I'm not saying you should start telling people or acting on those desires. I'm not saying you should start telling people or acting on those desires, but you can stop beating yourself up about it. Wow, I am brushing on some dangerous territory here.
People can't help the way they feel. It's unhealthy to shame them for it.
Yeah, don't ever let anyone tell you how you're supposed to feel.
Okay, so the first ego defense mechanism, or the first way that people will try to handle their emotions, is to just ignore them and pretend they don't exist. It's like trying to hold a balloon underwater. It takes a lot of mental energy.
Remember that that's energy that you could use doing something productive.
The second method is called displacement, and that's where somebody directs the emotions that they're trying to suppress onto something else. It's a lot like the third thing that people do, which is called projection. It's where somebody will try to attribute their unacceptable behavior or desires onto someone else.
A classic example of this is with cheaters. When one person is cheating, they'll accuse their partner of cheating to distract the attention away from themselves. You're welcome.
The next one is called reaction formation, and that is where people will do the exact opposite of what they want to do. The last one is called regression, and that's where people will just kind of go into la la land and act really childish and immature. And it's not always immature in a bad way, they just go back to a younger version of themselves. It's fun because if someone knows what you're talking about, you can be like, dude, why are you regressing so much right now?
Maybe this is a foundation for my personality.
Or maybe you're the spoonful of sugar and I'm the medicine.
Maybe I'm the super ego. You guys are so dumb.
Anyways, there are more defense mechanisms, but I think they're a bit repetitive and a bit of a stretch. We do have to remember that Freud thought really highly of cocaine.
Okay, so a part of Freud's theory involved this idea that our subconscious is our id and it harbors our true desires, and that our ego and superego are the parts of us that stops us from acting upon our true desires. Then he came up with the whole idea of Freudian slips, to where if we accidentally say something sexual or inappropriate, then that is representing our true desires. I want to challenge this assumption. I think that our id just wants everything that you put in front of it, unless our senses immediately tell us that it's bad. Like if it smells funny or looks really frightening. This would be why hoarders hoard and why people eat unhealthy food. However, I think that our egos represent our true desires. It's the whole concept that we know better. Our egos are the ones that say, no honey, you don't want that. That's just gonna make you feel like crap after you eat it. So now, moving forward, you guys will know what I'm referring to when I talk about the id and ego.
One last quick note. I think that when we make something really taboo and unacceptable, that ends up subconsciously turning that thing into a trigger for arousal. Let that sink in.
I love you guys. Thank you for watching my video. This would be why hoarders hoard and this subject tends to make people feel really uncomfortable.
Try to handle their unhealthy... No. So when we're in our nerd groups and stuff, we'll just be like, dude, why are you regressing so much right now, huh?
It's true.
The last one is called rejection. Was that a Freudian slip? It's where someone will try to... People can't help the way they feel. It's more appropriate than the...